Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. My name is Alex Dvorkin and I'm a managing partner at 4D Capital. We specialize in a very unique mathematical approach to the stock market where we analyze the market and individual stocks in multidimensional space. And when we do, essentially perfect order emerges. On top of that, we've developed a number of very powerful timing indicators over the years, and when we combine both of them together, we can very often predict what the overall stock market or individual stocks will do going forward in both price and time. I believe that our work is nearly identical to what Jim Simmons was able to accomplish at Renaissance Technologies, if you're familiar with Jim. So why I bring this up? This is very important because these very same calculations essentially allow us not only to predict the stock market, they allow us to predict what's going to happen in terms of geopolitical events or on a geopolitical arena, so to speak. And the most important forecast that we have going forward is that our timing and mathematical calculations indicate that there's going to be a nuclear exchange between Russia and China alliance and NATO members in the summer of 2029. And when that happens, the entire northern hemisphere is essentially going to be destroyed. It's going to be absolute catastrophe, and unfortunately that's what's heading our way. Okay, so in my previous videos, if you go into the description of this video, you're going to see a number of links. I outline in great details two very powerful cycles. One is an 84-year war cycle that has to do with American wars and its implication for this particular time frame of August of 2029. And the secondary cycle is the overall stock market cycle, which tops out also in the summer of 2029. So this is the first time in history where a very important stock market cycles tops out at the same time that a war cycle arrives. So it never happened before. Even in a World War I, World War II period of time, they were completely independent of each other. But this time around, they arrive together and they indicate that there's going to be a nuclear exchange once again between Russia and China alliance and NATO members in the summer of 2029. Now, if you watched my prior videos, I've suggested that the war has already started. The World War III has already started. It is just being broadcast in different formats around the world. So some of it is Cold War, North Korea. Some of it is a boiling pot like Iran. Some of it is already kinetic, such as Russia versus Ukraine or Russia versus NATO's proxy in this particular case. So the majority of it, or the major thing that I'm trying to indicate here, is that you have to understand that the war has already started, but the nuclear exchange is going to happen in the summer of 2029. Okay? So with that in mind, let's look at the current events. I'm going to give you the analysis that nobody's talking about, particularly because of this meeting between Zelensky and Trump, and an upcoming meeting between Trump and Putin that is supposed to occur in Hungary over the next couple of weeks. Actually, there hasn't been a set date yet, but they're planning it as we speak. So if you would recall, we spoke in great detail last week about the possibility of the United States supplying Tomahawk missiles, and we argued that it would be a huge mistake to do so because those Tomahawk missiles can be nuclear tipped. And we'll go over all of these topics or all of these headlines in a second, but let me just set up the game for you here. So what I'm going to tell you is that not everything is what it seems, particularly in this situation. So let's go through the headlines and I'll explain what I mean. So Monday Live, Trump warns Zelensky to accept Russia's terms or be destroyed ahead of Budapest Peace Summit meeting with Putin. Okay, so that's one of them. Trump warns Putin will destroy Ukraine in the second White House shouting match. Apparently, they want to make it very clear. This is how the media and anti-analysis, as I call it, works, right? They want to make it very clear that there was a shouting match between Trump and Zelensky, and I'll explain why that is very important also in a second. So Trump urges Zelensky to accept Putin's term or be destroyed by Russia. Okay, same thing. You know, Trump says he does not think Ukraine can win in conflict against Russia. Well, okay, fair enough, but wait a second. Didn't he a week ago said that Russia lost over 1 million troops or something very similar to that, that they haven't made any progress in 2.5 or 3 years, that they're losing on the ground, and Ukraine has a very good chance of taking all of its territory back? Didn't he just said that a week ago? So which one is that, Mr. Trump? But this is all playing out in what I'm about to tell you. So let me move myself. Trump private blow up with Zelensky revealed. Once again, they want to make it very clear that there was a apparent blow up between Trump and Zelensky. I don't think so. Okay, so, and of course, as expected, Zelensky rejects Trump-backed territory concession plan. Okay, EU trying to derail Putin-Trump summit. Moscow and NATO member calls on citizens to adopt war mode. Okay. Okay, and then the next one's China, which is a different topic. We'll talk about it once we complete this one. So, what does it all mean? Okay, so let me open this up. Remember, in shortly after President Trump took office, I believe it was in March, that Zelensky showed up in the White House. It could have been February, perhaps February or March. Don't quote me on that, doesn't really matter. But if you would recall, Zelensky showed up in the White House, and there was a televised blow-up, at least according to most people, between Vance, Trump, and Zelensky, and how they argued back and forth, and Zelensky was asking for a lot of more military support. Trump decided to freeze it at that time, and it was made apparent that Ukraine was essentially done. There was going to be no support, and the war is going to be over in relatively short order. I remember telling my friends at that time, this is old theater, okay? And that is old theater because you have to understand something. Ukraine has, obviously, it has nothing to do with what the mainstream media is telling us. This is a neocon project, this is an America project, this is a NATO project. And the primary goal of the United States and NATO, and I guess European Union by default, is to destroy Russia, okay? They have many papers written about it. Different think tanks. This is the official strategy or the direction of where the United States wants to take it, okay? First they want to destroy Russia, then they want to take over China or destroy China, however you want to slice or dice that, and to remain the world hegemon. So that's the primary objective here, okay? So the United States cannot simply let Ukraine go. They cannot let Russia take over and win that particular war, because that would mean a defeat for NATO, that would mean a defeat for the United States. So they were playing that game back in February and March of this year, where they made it look apparent that there's a big drift developing between the United States and Ukraine. But weapon supplies never ended, monetary aid never ended, and if anything, as we've seen over the last couple of months, Trump has increased military targeting for the Ukrainian side, where they've been successful over the last couple of months, staging a number of very successful and powerful attacks against Russian military bases as well as Russian energy interests, okay? So what you're seeing here is very simply a deception. The mainstream media and the American government and the NATO, they want you to think that Trump is once again abandoning Ukraine or wants to get off of this Ukraine subject. Nothing could be further from the truth. Once again, they keep pushing Russia over a red line, over a red line, over a red line. And in last week's conversation, we talked about Tomahawk missiles and how it was incredibly dangerous because those Tomahawk missiles can be nuclear tipped. And that by shooting those Tomahawk missiles from Ukrainian territory, and of course American contractors will have to be the ones shooting it because nobody else can operate those systems, Russia could view such a provocation as a nuclear threat against the country and respond in kind. And we talked about this very important upcoming time turning point that we have that is associated with December 13th of this year, plus or minus, let's say, 2 weeks would give us the exact perfect margin of error associated with that turning point. And that time marker has to do with December 7th, 1941, as you know, Pearl Harbor, which was an incredibly important day in American history and the day when America officially entered World War II. So this date is coming up, this December 13th. This is the 84-year war cycle that I often talked about, and it is act as a marker. It worked in 2001, right before September 11th. It arrived. It worked on June 22nd of this year. June 22nd of this year is when Nazi Germany attacked Russia and officially launched the World War II. Before that, it was skirmishes, and friends didn't really count. You know the story. But on June 22nd of this year, President Trump, as you know, bombed Iran, which was also a very important time marker because that particular conflict is not over yet. It's just being reset to a later date. It's going to flare up again. Okay, so that's something that we're looking at. So the point I'm trying to make here is that this is what they want you to see. But the reality is the primary objective of the United States is the destruction of Russia by toppling its government, or in military terms, and then breaking down that country into many different pieces so it can be exploited, let's put it that way, and its natural resources stolen. Okay, so that's the primary objective. And as you can see, the United States and NATO keep pushing and pushing and pushing over and over and over those red lines. So I'll talk about that in later dates, but President Putin is making a huge strategic mistake, and he has been making a huge strategic mistake over the last couple of years. I would essentially agree with Paul Craig Roberts that by allowing American provocations to increase in frequency and increase in strength, he is showing his weakness, and because of that, it is a sure bet that the United States will continue to push forward with their primary objective, which is destruction of Russia. And that primary objective, they will push us over the red line. So what you're seeing in terms of Ukraine and Trump and Zelensky and Putin is twofold, okay? I'm actually very worried about this meeting because Putin is going to fly to Hungary. So provocation number one could be possibly shooting down his plane, even though I know there's a lot of analysts and they're talking about how he's going to get there. But he cannot fly a direct route into Hungary. He's going to have to go through the Black Sea, Turkey, Mediterranean, etc. So it gives NATO a lot of opportunities to shoot that plane down. So that's risk number one. And I wouldn't put it past this administration or any other administration of neocons and the American industrial military complex to do something stupid such as that. So that's risk number one. But risk number two is essentially nothing, from my personal opinion, and seeing how things are playing out behind the scenes and how they want to portray this, nothing's going to come out of this meeting, because this meeting is going to be an ultimatum, and it's going to be an ultimatum from the American administration towards Russia, and that ultimatum is essentially going to be: you freeze the war, as we talked about before, at the current line, and let's end this conflict. But the problem is Russia has woken up to the fact that all it's going to do, and of course, as we discussed previously, Russia is winning this conflict on the ground. Hands down. If you follow current news along the entire major front line, and they're actually crossing to Kherson today once again. So that's going to be a big deal over the next couple of weeks. So they're winning across the entire front line, which is something huge, 12 or 1,400 miles. And that's just going to continue. Ukrainian military is collapsing. They surrendering in droves, and they don't have much time left. Okay, so the American side is going to represent an ultimatum to the Russian Federation that they either freeze the conflict or Trump will indeed supply Tomahawk missiles to Ukraine. Okay, so we're going to be to this square one that we talked about last week within a relatively short period of time. Of course, I believe Russia will not agree to those terms. They have and they had their terms for a very long time. They want complete demilitarization of Ukraine, and that's not going to happen under this agreement because once that conflict is frozen, NATO will rearm, regroup, and what we've seen over the last couple of years will restart again. There's going to be no retreat from that, okay? So I think Putin's going to reject it, and Trump, in all of his infinite wisdom, will supply those Tomahawk missiles within a couple of weeks. And that brings us into the time window that we talked about earlier of that December 13th plus or minus 2 weeks time window. Actually, it extends a little bit more, and it could extend potentially to the current time window. That's one of the reasons I say that I'm a bit worried about Putin traveling all the way to Hungary, because there's a real possibility that something's going to happen en route to that meeting with President Putin. So those are the two things, and you can save this video. You're going to see that this particular outcome is essentially baked into the cake. They want Russia to make out Russia to be the bad guy. Once again, in this particular situation, they want to show it that they refused the great deal, peace terms that Trump offered, and because of that, he will supply those weapons to Ukraine. And when they do, they're going to shoot those Tomahawk missiles. And that brings us down into that December 13th time turning point. And Russia is going to respond in a way that's going to shock world financial markets. That's what we talked about last week. We talked about the volatility index. We talked about this particular time frame. We talked about the overall structure of the stock market, and all things point towards the middle of December of this year where something very serious is going to happen. So I believe that's what's going to happen. So we don't have to wait very long, just a couple of weeks, but that's how it's going to play out. So let's see what else we want to talk about. So that ends the conversation about the Ukraine NATO situation, or Ukraine-Russia, I should say, situation. So this is the next very important story. I want China to thrive, but Trump outlined 3 demands for Beijing's before high-level talks. So we talked about the stupidity of this particular trade war that Trump has started. There's absolutely no need for that. Completely unnecessary. There are a number of different things he could have done, and this does absolutely nothing. And of course, the primary, so this is, okay, let me close that, but this is what he wants. So these are let me close this. So these are his 3 points that he wants. He wants them to restart buying soybeans. That's pretty big business, but it's hopefully the U.S. can find other buyers, but he wants them to stop fentanyl, and he doesn't want China to play the rare earth game. So this is the person who started the trade war himself, and then now his negotiation stance has weakened quite substantially, as you can see from the demands he's making, because the United States relies very heavily on those rare earth metals, not only for the industrial military complex, but also for the the entire IT sector. So that's going to be a big blow. And China holds all the winning cards in this particular situation. And as Trump is making himself look weaker and weaker and weaker with every single minute this particular trade war goes on, this is going to come back to bite us in the ass, because there's no way that they can win this war. And I actually heard just recently, yesterday, that apparently these rare earth metals play a very important role in munition manufacturing. So apparently the United States cannot make munitions without those rare earth metals. And once again, it's a very, very, very bad situation for the United States to be in. And the only way that Trump can win this particular battle is by losing face, by backing down and saying, okay, we go back to, I don't even know, it was 30%, then it was 130%, is it 150? I don't even know what the tariffs on China is. I don't think anybody does, to be honest with you. I just hope that my packages arriving from China don't get screwed at customs and they make me pay quite a bit of money for it, which has already happened. I had to pay, I think one package came in, I had to pay $150, just a standard processing fee. I tried to argue it, but it didn't work. But anyway, it doesn't really matter. But point being is that in this situation, it's going to be, as you can see, his position is already weakening quite substantially. And if China says no to any of those things, then he's just going to have to accept the deal and lose the trade war, or he can do a face-saving maneuver and increase it to 200%, 500%. I don't know what it's going to be. Crush the markets one more time. So it's a no win-win situation. I argued earlier that we should never be in this particular trade war, but it is what it is. So now we're just going to have to deal with it. So let's see. So this is one last thing I want to kind of present to you. Go to usawatchdog.com, and Greg Hunter has a wonderful interview with Catherine Austin Fitz. And this is the article about the same matter. Escaping the digital concentration camp, gold fights a financial control grid. So she basically talks about a very interesting presentation. I completely agree with what she's talking about. And what she's talking about is the complete financial grid is being put in place. I would tend to agree, not only financial, but medical control grid. And you can argue the entire control grid is being put in place. Something that what the Bible talks about in the book of Revelation, which is the mark of the beast. So that particular system is being put in place. But what you have to take into consideration is that all moving parts of that system have already been built. Okay, so that system already exists. It's just that they're putting us slowly into that system. A little bit on financial side, a little bit on the medical side, a little bit on digital internet side, and so on and so forth. So that's what she talks about. Very fascinating stuff. And for anyone who's seeing what's going on out there, it's very important information to have, because you'll get quite a bit of education about what's going on and how they're tightening the screws on us slowly, or the boiling frog example that very often used. So we're already in that hot pan and boiling, but we are completely unaware of the fact, or most people are completely unaware of the fact. And this particular setup works well into our primary war forecast and when that nuclear exchange is going to happen between Russia-China alliance and NATO members. Okay, and by the way, that's seal number 6 in the book of Revelation, the final one. That's when the earth shakes and the fire comes. That's what they're describing there, is the nuclear war, nuclear exchange that our mathematical and timing work predicts that's going to happen. So that's it for today. We do have a free trial associated with our work, a link in the description of this video. We also have the next webinar coming up the following Friday, which will talk about the overall composition of the stock market. We will showcase our mathematical work and how we calculate the market in the multidimensional space. So if you would be interested in any of that, please click on the links. Finally, there are some of the links at the bottom of the description of this video. Explain the war cycle, explain the stock market cycles and how they converge together on that summer of 2029. And that's when, at least according to our mathematical work, those nukes will fly. Thank you very much for your time. Have a wonderful day ahead. Bye-bye.